I'm now very pleased to hand over to two colleagues in charge of the Modern Materials and Media Preservation Program today. They joined our university around 2 years ago in 2019 and 2020, respectively. Being the masterminds behind this conference, they are once again critically questioning and reshaping our teaching program. One of them is Martina Pfenninger. She's one of those courageous Bernese students of the first hour. Before returning to Bern, she helped to establish the corresponding education in Vienna for several years, being the head of studio for contemporary art conservation at the Academy of Fine Arts from 2007 to 2020. The other came to us from the United States. Martina Haidvogl was the associate media conservator at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art from 2011 to 2019. Previously, she was employed in Agathe Jacek Studio for video restoration in Bern, at the Austrian Film Museum and the Vienna Technical Museum. She studied at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna and at our university, the Academy of the Arts in Bern. And now I'm happy to pass the word and the screen to the two Martinas.
Thank you, Stefan. And above all, thank you, Stefan. Thank you so much for your insights of how it all began more than 20 years ago.
20 years, wow, what an accomplishment. What an anniversary to celebrate and to provide us with an opportunity to pause, contemplate, and look back on how far we've come, both within our educational program as well as the field as a whole.
However, the debate on how to conserve modern and contemporary art is much older. In 1977, Heinz Althöfer and his team at the Restaurierungszentrum Düsseldorf organized a symposium called The Conservation of Modern Art. In the publication accompanying the event, one could find early attempts to define the new specialization, advice on how to collaborate with artists, but also important skills required by emerging conservators for modern and contemporary art.
Ever since, the discipline of contemporary art conservation has undergone an exciting journey with many milestones along the way. We look forward to highlighting these in the first session, Retracing Our Path, where we will listen to multiple perspectives of how the young profession evolved while considering regional differences. We will recall specifically through the lens of education the very beginnings, honoring the shoulders we're standing on. The session Changing Roles will reflect on the changing work areas and activities that bring with them a new profile of requirements and skill sets. The first day then closes with a panel on advocacy. We will take stock and identify areas and opportunities of improvement, both in the institution and in the public eye.
The second day starts with a closer look inside the institution. Rebecca Levin, curator at Serpentine Galleries, will talk about sustainability in exhibition planning in her keynote. This talk will be followed by other positions on preventive conservation in the session New Ways of Caring. The session New Ways of Working will examine the new workflows and structures within national and international institutions that the stewardship of contemporary art requires. In the topic New Ways of Collaborating, we give the stage to the special kinds of collaboration that contemporary art fosters. Collaboration between colleagues and between conservators and artists. The symposium will conclude with Pip Lawrenson and Jill Sterrett, who have pioneered and modeled in their institutions ways of working we can look up and aspire to. They will take us along with them as they focus forward to what's to come. But before we leave the floor to our colleagues' wonderful contributions, we would like to lay out what we consider to be crucial for the next 2 days. And that is the question: what is conservation of contemporary art? What is it that conservators of contemporary art actually do? Why are works that have just been made yesterday already in need of care?
When we prepared this talk, we realized that this question was a very basic one, and at the same time, not an easy one to answer on its face. So we decided to show you by looking at some of the works that have entered our school's conservation lab, objects that our students are working on as part of their studies. We want to preface this by saying that the following is by no means to be understood as a comprehensive list.
First, let's start with what has been our profession's core area of expertise: materials. Artists today use any materials you can think of: paint, wood, metal, plastic, fur, food. Within the world of contemporary art, these are the more traditional materials. So contemporary art conservators are often faced with materials that don't necessarily have established methods of preservation, and on top of that, were maybe never meant to last.
Amongst contemporary artworks, we find works made with video, audio, software, slide, and film, living on videotapes, computers, and the web. These works were made with materials and techniques subject to rapid technological change and obsolescence. They use so-called exhibition copies to be shown, and these exhibition copies may not only be limited to the video file or the film print, but to an entire sculpture, making us have to reconsider the status of each component and the traditional concept of originality.
Between materials and technique, there's one aspect that plays an even greater role in contemporary art: the concept, the meaning, the intentionality. What if the artwork is not its physical representation, but the idea behind it? If a work is produced, performed, installed only at the time of exhibition, how do you conserve it? Can it be different every time? Are there components that are variable? And if so, how can we best manage this predictable change? How big of a loss is it if you lose the instructions?
These concepts are nothing new to conservators of contemporary art, and we incorporate them in our daily practice. However, these are not as easily communicated and promoted, while at the same time they have very practical and substantial consequences for the way we care for these complex works. They require new structures within institutions that connect all departments tasked with collecting, installing, lending, and documenting art, and that foster collaborative ways of working. They need new ways of documentation that start at the moment of acquisition and is revisited again and again during key moments of collection care, like exhibition and loan. They require methods of capturing the artist's voice implemented in these workflows, and to place a trusted relationship with artists at the center of successful collection stewardship.
These are the new approaches that the care for contemporary art calls for, and they require unique skill sets of trained experts working full-time in institutions, together with curators, registrars, technicians, and other collection care specialists to accompany these works as they enter an institution's collection.
The HKB's training program is officially named Conservation of Modern Materials and Media. It was the first program to include time-based media conservation as an integral part of contemporary art conservation, acknowledging its high vulnerability and specific need of care.
Since 2001, a total of 47 students graduated with a diploma and later an MA degree. These alumni have assumed positions in national and international institutions, as well as in private practice in Switzerland and abroad.
Building up the study program and the resulting success of alumni on the job market were only possible thanks to the efforts, engagement, and expertise of our predecessors. Thank you, Barbara Spallinger, Johannes Gfeller, Anna Commiotto, and Agathe Jacek. Thanks also to Mark Egger, who is still part of our team today.
Our team's recent contribution to these developments has aimed at closing the binary division between materiality and media. This development has made room for an approach that is more focused on methods used for decision-making and inclusion of the artist's voice. The focus on the identification of work-defining properties has become crucial in the discourse on materiality and authenticity. It invites conservators to consider strategies such as replication or refabrication.
This focal shift to a more holistic approach, considering the artistic concept and intentionality, has been recognized in our field as a paradigm shift.
A similar development can be observed regarding the topics of research projects and master's theses at HKB's Contemporary Art Conservation Program from the last 20 years. In recent years, more research projects have focused on case analysis using the casuistic approach advocated by René van der Waal.
This paradigm shift is reflected in the program's curriculum as well, in which methodologies taken from social sciences, such as interview techniques, have joined in-depth classes on technology, materiality, degradation, as well as classes on various conservation techniques. The teaching methods used encourage the collaborative working practices and decision-making that are required when caring for these artworks.
Our program in contemporary art conservation relies on the expertise and infrastructure of several in-house partners. We especially like to mention the Art Technological Laboratory, providing minimal invasive and non-destructive analysis on artworks. The resources of the Media Lab, including technical knowledge, multimedia equipment, and infrastructure, are indispensable. Our own media conservation studio provides the means to transfer, analyze, condition report, and preserve analog or digital-born time-based media artworks.
It takes a village, as they say, and we're most grateful to the many cultural institutions that provide us with exciting projects and internships for our students. You help us shape the next generations of conservators who will bring these new paradigms, structures, and voices into the world. We are happy that some of our partner institutions are also represented at this symposium.
So, what do we expect from the next 2 days? By looking back, we would like to contribute to the narrative of our community's history. We also hope to provide a platform to exchange our thoughts and allow for inspiring discourse and to connect the members of our community.
We look forward to learning more about emerging topics in the field of contemporary art conservation and how our colleagues are incorporating sustainability into their practice of conservation and exhibition making. And we look forward to examining how we can bring an inclusive, multi-perspective approach to decision-making and strive for more diversity at our universities.
Most importantly, we want to create awareness. There are specially trained individuals intimately familiar with the challenges of caring for these complex artworks. They can contribute meaningfully to activities such as acquisitions, loans, and exhibition. They are ready to partner up and spark far-reaching engagement with your audience and community.
And with these last words, at least for this talk, we wholeheartedly wish you much fun for the coming 2 days.